Welcome to the Talking Magic channel. I'm your host, Young-jin. Joining me is my co-host, Tryzyn.
I'm Tryzyn.
And this is the Upkeep number 3. First things first, let's move to the draw step. So the big story of the week is Pro Tour Hour of Devastation and the return of Red Deck wins. More on that in our main phase discussion. Moving to combat, we'll be posing the question, is the Pro Tour meant to be the professional tour or the promotional tour? Post-combat, we'll be rounding out our Magic Talk with the final tribes reveal for Commander 17, as well as taking a look at the special promo cards announced for Hascon this year. And then after that, stick around for the end step where I'll be giving a brief review of Dunkirk, which may possibly be the best war film I've ever seen. Alright, let's move to our first main phase. First off, a hearty congratulations to Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa for winning.
Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa! Yeah! Alright.
Congratulations to him for winning Pro Tour Hour Devastation.
The guy is too good at Magic.
He is too damn good. This is his second Pro Tour win and his 12th Pro Tour top 8 finish, which also makes him Player of the Year for the 2016-2017 season. Not bad. Not too bad. No,
this is pretty good.
It is. Paulo is an impressively good player, and this season he has been tearing it up. And this Pro Tour, it was amazing. Now, so let's look at the deck that he piloted to his win. So PVDR was running a variant of the Red Deck wins archetype named Ramanap Red.
Ramanap?
Named after one of its star cards, Ramanap Ruins. So this is a land that you can sacrifice to deal 2 to your opponent. So alongside a playset of Sunscorched Reach, this deck has an impressive amount of reach just in its mana base. Now, alongside this reach in its mana, it also has a ton of really cheap, hasty creatures low to the ground, Bomat Couriers, Earthshaker Kenras, On-Crop Crashers, and Hazardous just smashing in face and dealing some real damage. I mean, even Carry Zev showed up in decks, showing that a nigh unkillable monkey is pretty scary. So this deck is very fast, but it also has its other strength in that it can easily turn the corner and survive in the late game, with its reach being in its mana, in its lands itself, so you can sacrifice your lands to deal the damage to your opponents, and you also are able to eternalize Earthshaker Kenras at 6 mana to get another hasty 4/4 threat. This deck,
it's such a bad feeling as like a control player to be sitting there with a hand full of counter spells, and like you finally stabilize, you have your lands online, all right, late game's on lock, and then your opponent can burn you out with lands that you can't counter unless you have a stifle effect. That feels so bad.
Yeah, exactly. This is such a punishing deck. Both early game, it can close out the game in just a matter of... It can close out the game as early as turn 4 or even turn 5. But even if you can't close out the game, later on, you're eternalizing Earthshaker Kenras. Like I said, you're sacrificing your lands. And you also have Chandras. A lot of these decks are running Chandra, Torch of Defiance, which is great in the late game matchups too. Tick up every turn, deal damage, eventually get an ultimate if you can last long enough. So overall, this is a very solid package in an aggro list. I mean, compared to most traditional aggro lists where they would taper off at this point, Ramanap Red still remains strong. So, I mean, overall, Ramanap Red is an incredibly strong deck piloted by an incredibly good player. Congratulations again to Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa for taking on the Pro Tour. But
and while people might have been bored that there's 5 mono red decks in the top 8 and 1 black red aggro deck, the games were exciting. Like, yeah, they were mirror matches, and to some people that may be a little bit boring, but they were very exciting games.
I mean, that can be attributed to how well the Ramanap Red deck leads into the late game, rather than being quite as linear as more traditional aggro decks might be. There really is a lot of very interesting gameplay choices that you have to deal with when it comes to the Ramanap Red deck. Whether to sacrifice, which lands to sacrifice, how to sequence your play. Talking about sequencing, there is a heartbreaker in the top 8 bracket, but we can get to that later. But yeah, this is a very complicated deck, much more complicated than it appears at the surface. But what else do we have at the top 8 in this program?
Well, also at the top 8, in second place, we have Black Green Constrictor, piloted by Samuel Pardee. This deck is a little bit of a blast from the past, seeing new success again in this format. It's it's kind of heralded as like a good way to beat the red deck. Samuel, the pilot, felt like he had a very strong matchup. You can't win them all though, and so Paulo Vitor was able to take him out in the final round. But it did prove strong by like putting bulky creatures in the path of these aggro creatures, and that they just can't get past, and then being able to turn the corner around pretty quick once you get down like a Verdurous Gear Hulk or another powerful creature onto the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then in third and fourth place, we have 2 copies of Ramunap Red, and not a really big surprise there. The deck's good. And that was piloted by Samuel Black and Wing Chun Yam. Hopefully I said his name correctly.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Samuel Black, usually known for playing kind of odd decks, kind of going against the curve. Not this time. It's a very, very popular deck he ended up piloting.
When you know that it's a good deck, I think, at this kind of professional level, you know what you want to play. And also, I think you have to bring into mind that with a newer, fresher format, I mean, the meta is pretty open at the moment. These aggro decks are much more easily able to prey upon more unrefined decks.
So, it is hard to build a control deck. Like right now, like a lot of people commented that blue-red didn't have the showing they expected. Like blue-red control decks, they need to know how to build their deck towards. They need to know what answers to have. And especially at the start of the format, it's hard to decipher that. And these aggro decks can pick apart any control deck that doesn't have the correct answer. So, it was smart, to go with that aggressive deck. Is the format going to be entirely Ramunap Red, 2 weeks out? Let's see. Personally, I think Ramunap Red, while being a powerful deck, is one that's, fairly easy to sideboard against. They have a very linear game plan that you can plan against. So we'll have to see how cards match up. I
actually do want to talk about that, but why don't we finish talking about the top 8 before we move on to that?
Okay.
But I do want to mention that. So you mentioned Yam Ching-won, I believe his name was?
Yeah, Wing Chun Yam.
Sorry, Wing Chun Yam.
How I have it written down. Yep.
He first of all, congratulations to him for his performance. He did remarkably well as a more newer face of the Pro Tour scene. And very interesting to watch him play. He was frankly very emotional player. Not that that's a bad thing. He was definitely very emotive and animated, and definitely wore his heart on his sleeve. But it was a heartbreaker round. I believe it was the semifinals. It was him versus PVDR. This entire tournament could have gone completely different.
Was this the top deck Chandra?
No. It was I don't think it was Chandra.
Okay.
But basically, what happened was, Yam had the win. Well, he had PVDR low. PVDR was tapped out, and he had low enough that if Yam just top decked the right answer, he had the win right there. He top decked the Fiery Temper. No, not Fiery Temper. It's a 2-mana deal 3. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called.
A braid?
No, not a braid. Still to the face.
Oh,
so
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Something. He had it. You could tell he knew what he had. He was extremely excited. However, one fatal misplay. He went to combat and swung with his Hazaret. However, with the card he drew, he had 2 cards in hand, and his Hazaret was no longer able to attack.
So it couldn't attack. Man.
Absolutely heartbreaking moment.
Yeah. Incendiary Flow. That's the name.
Thank you. Yep. Incendiary Flow, yeah. So close. I mean, victory was this close to Yam. History could have been completely rewritten for him, for the Pro Tour. But, that's magic. Sometimes the nerves get to you. But still, well done to Yam. He did a great showing, and I hope to see more from him in the future.
Yeah, so remember that clause on Hazaret.
Yeah,
because that is brutal.
Absolutely.
That is brutal.
All right,
so next up we have the quarterfinalists. A little bit more diversity here. We have Black-Red Aggro, piloted by Shintaro Kurata. We also have Mono-Black Zombies, making a showing once again by Yusuke Sasabe. Then 2 copies of Ramunap Red, Felix Leong, and Seth Manfield. Seth Manfield, another player who frequents the Pro Tour circuit. Yes. So, Mono Black Zombies making a show up again, and not much has changed.
No, I mean, when you look at the overall top 8, it's incredibly fast. So, obviously, 5 copies of Ramunap Red, taking up the majority of the top 8, which is both amazing and a little bit worrisome. We have Mono Black Zombies, another very fast aggro deck. Black Red Aggro, which is pretty much Ramunap Red with a Black Splash. And Green Black Constrictor, while Golgari is slower, the Golgari list is slower, on the slower side than these Ramunap Red decks. It's also pretty fast. These decks are meaning to win the game very quickly. But no need to despair. Once we go past the top 8 and we look at the metagame overall, honestly, I can say with Messiah Relief that the metagame is actually looking very healthy for once. Now, yes, the day 1 metagame did show that Ramen Red had a 25% of the field, which is gigantic. But then right after that was Zombies with about 12%. 11 to 12%. And after that, I believe it was Smarter Vehicles. I can't remember. I'm going to have a table up. You guys can see the numbers up on the screen. But the overall share of the metagame was pretty evenly dispersed out between a wide variety of decks. Your aggro decks, your mid-range decks, control variants, even weirder decks like White-Blue God Pharaoh's Gift had showing and did surprisingly well, like upwards of 65% conversion rate, if I'm correct, for day 2. So overall, the meta does look incredibly healthy, which I'm very happy about.
The White-Blue God's Pharaoh's Gifts deck, like, that combo's really strong, but Abrade, the most popular card in the metagame right now, it does so much against that deck. I mean, I love it. Like, the intricacies of that deck are so interesting.
Right.
But when your 7-mana artifact just gets destroyed by a 2-mana spell, even if you manage to cheat it out, that feels pretty bad.
Right. Yeah. Main deck Braids are really harming more artifact-focused synergies, but it's still it's still very impressive that a deck like kind of like a weirder synergies like that can show up in a deck in a meta such as this. Which
yeah, for sure.
Great to see. Now, obviously, I say the meta's healthy. And you may cry, but look at Ramen Bread, 25% of the metagame, that's insane. I mean, that's both good, and you can see it as both good and bad, but I see it as mostly very good, because we have Ramen Red, this red deck win archetype that's taking majority of the field. However, this kind of archetype is also pretty easy to dismantle. Now, you mentioned earlier that these kind of decks, frankly, are pretty easy to tech into and sideboard into, right?
Yeah, as my Magic Sensei once told me, sideboard, you would love to sideboard against an aggro deck any day. Forget sideboarding against control. It's so hard to answer control decks, mostly because of, you don't know what their threat's going to be, like what they can use to turn around the game. Basically, you adjust your own game plan, you augment your own game plan against control. But against aggro, you can formulate a better plan of attack. You can try to get them shut off, and then your deck can get rolling. Even if you're playing, another aggressive deck, you still have to sideboard against an aggressive deck in some way. And sideboarding against aggressive deck is just a lot easier, in my opinion, than sideboarding against control or mid-range. So, while things might look bleak, I don't think these are like the mono red days of Magic Origins meta. So I think this is a little bit, not quite as fast of a deck. Still really fast, though, and able to kill you with lands, which is another thing to consider. But I think this, honestly, is a deck that you can take apart. You can get a few early fatties on the board. You can block them out, and that's what Black Green Constrictor did to some pretty good success. So I don't think things are so bleak. 25% of the meta. Things are not bleak, though.
Honestly, a red deck wins archetype is the perfect kind of deck to see at this kind of top at the top of the crop, because red deck wins, honestly.
I get it, because they play that one crop master guy.
Oh, thank you. Totally intentional.
On crop crasher. Yeah, I just crashed your joke.
Thank you. So having a red deck wins type archetype being at the top of the pack is great, because red deck wins kind of forms the role of the gatekeeper of the format, punishing greedier mana bases, but at the same time being easily punished themselves. However, to easily punish these decks, oftentimes certain tech choices or card choices and certain sacrifice and deck building have to be made in certain deck. When you do that, you become better at the top deck, which is red deck wins, but then you also start to lose against some other decks.
Ketra's Last Mercy win. Ketra's Last Mercy win. If that card sees play, I'll videotape myself eating, I don't know, mud or something.
I'll tape myself eating a sandwich.
That card is so bad.
I'll tape myself eating a sandwich. You have my word on that.
But maybe, yeah, a sandwich. That's better. I should have betted against that. Because
you're
that
not
card is so bad.
You're not a betting man, I see.
But there are cards I think that are pretty powerful against Ramen Red.
Yeah, I know, but
there are good life gains.
Ultimately, this should form into a healthy meta of X beats Y, which loses to Z, which is ultimately the best way for the
Yeah,
meta
we
to
learned that
take
at
down.
Pokemon, man. You got your grass beats water, your water beats fire.
Type
Yeah, you
weaknesses.
can never go wrong with Pokemon.
Exactly. Pokemon is the base for every game to, be built upon. It is the Bible of the games, as one might say.
Yeah, at least it's not like back in Khan's meta where Abzan beats Abzan beats Abzan.
No, definitely. This is looking
It's a little bit
much
more
better.
diverse.
Only took about 4 bannings to get here.
Yeah,
Perfectly
yeah.
Perfectly fine.
Emrakul, rest in peace. Taken too soon. Although that was flavorful that Emrakul got banned.
Yeah, I will agree. Yeah, pretty flavorful.
Yeah,
Dark,
got banned into
not
the moon.
flavorful for my wallet. I'll
No.
say, but pretty flavorful.
How hard did you drop?
God, I don't even want to talk about it, man. I bought my Emeralds for like $20 each. Oh my
How many? 3? 3? Was that 3?
Free. Let's not. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It's a fresh wound. Let it heal, please. So why don't we kind of look into the peek into the future and see how the metagame might shake down in the coming months. Now, I'm no expert. In fact, I might say I'm a kind of bad Magic player, but I think this is a good thought experiment to see where the metagame can shake down, how we can take down the top dog, and maybe even think further than that, how we can beat the decks coming up to beat the top deck. Ooh, now we're thinking like a pro.
Ooh, now we're thinking with Magic. I think Blue-Red Control still had a strong enough showing. They might want bigger creature density than just Torrential Gearhulks, because you'll have to have counter magic up because Abrade is everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Yes, and if your only beat stick is that Gearhulk, when do you get them dead? Like, yeah, you have your Wandering Fumaroles, but that takes time. Those are weak cards. That's not a very strong
also,
mana
I'm not
land.
that crazy on a 4-mana activation on a mana line either.
Yeah, and a 4-mana activation that turns into essentially a 4/1.
Yeah,
unless you're going to beat them down with a 1/4.
Into a 1/4, into a 4/1, into a 1/4. Come on, use the stat.
Continue, yeah, there's some combo, it's jank. But, I think that maybe they want to look towards higher threat density, not necessarily creature, I guess.
I've always been a big fan of having a wide density of threats, like a wider threat margin. Like, I've always been a fan of so with a red deck, main board, stuff like Glorybringer, so you also have another threat on board. You have your Torrential Gearhulks, obviously. From Planeswalkers, you can run Planeswalkers like Chandra as well. So diversify.
I'm kind of curious, like, why Goblin Dank Dwellers didn't see as much play in these style of decks. I mean, it's not as powerful as Gearhulk, and I'm not trying to say Goblin Dark Dwellers is, but it doesn't die to Braid. It has Menace, so you're more likely to get some damage, and it kind of gets you the similar effect. Only getting a 3-power card is a big difference, and not being able to play at instant speed also hurts the deck a lot.
That's the biggest problem.
I think that's probably the biggest issue is not playing at instant speed, but it's still a pretty powerful card.
I mean, when you're running a deck like Blue-Red Control, which is almost entirely running on instant speed action, flash, and stuff like that, when you're playing 5-mana sorceries, these have to be really impactful. So we're basically only looking at cards like Our Devastation, which can destroy the board. Goblin Dark Dweller is a very strong card, obviously, being able to return a card. But when also half your library is stuff like counter spells,
that's
playing
a good point.
a 5-mana sorcery that can't hit half the cards that you want to be hitting. It's iffy.
Or like cards like Supreme Will that shape your hand, and you might want to wait till your opponent's turn so you know what to answer.
Yes,
I can see that. One thing I did like that some Blue-Red Control decks were doing is that they tech in like a 1 of Bolas. And I thought that was really neat.
Yeah,
like
it's just splashing black for Bolas.
Just splashing a little bit of black, just a little bit, just to drop down that Bolas. And, Bolas is a pretty powerful card. Not quite as good against the mono red decks.
No.
But still a very powerful player.
If the mana in Standard was just a little bit better, going Grixis will be an amazing tool against aggro decks, because the Grixis colors have a lot of tools to prey upon these aggro decks. We have Magma Spray, deals with Kenra incredibly easily. Fatal Push, frankly, deals with the entire library almost. Grasp of Darkness is easily the best answer.
One does not just splash for Grasp of Darkness.
No,
though.
obviously, but that's what I'm saying. If the mana base was better, we can play cards like Grasp of Darkness alongside cards like Abrade.
We had Buddy Lands.
Ooh.
Maybe coming soon in a Magic set near you. Ooh. I wasn't supposed to know that, Wizards. You don't know that I saw the leaks. Shh.
What leaks?
Don't want
I
to
don't,
get.
I don't know what leaks you're
Well,
talking
I
about.
don't know about
I
leaks.
have no idea. But Grasp of Darkness is really a very neat, very good answer against a lot of threats, including Hazoret, which is an indestructible
hmm
4 toughness creature.
So many games in the Pro Tour, someone resolved a Hazoret, and a player didn't have the answer. Like you had your mono red decks. They don't know what to do when a Hazoret's on board. Block with your own Hazoret. That's
Well,
about the
the
best
only
you
thing
can
a
do.
mono red deck can do against an opponent's Hazoret is play their own Hazoret and hope they can beat their Hazoret first.
Yeah, that's basically it. So Hasbro is just good night Irene. At least like the black green constrictor decks. I don't know why I keep trying to say constructor. The black green constrictor decks, they had grasp, which was nice. Mono black zombies, they didn't really have all that much they could do against. In fact, a lot of them were adding grasp of darkness, which was something I saw it in mono black zombie decks, in Amonkhet standard, but it wasn't like a 4 of. I don't think. Now suddenly you're singing as a 4 of, but you also
Yeah,
have
because it's such a good card against the meta. I think
they also have a Dark Salvation, which also deals with
yes, it does. Yep.
also deals with Hazoret, but you need a lot of zombies. But it's still a solid card.
All right, I think black does have a ton of tools. Black is one of my favorite colors, and black is seeming like a very strong answer.
Ambition, man, ambition.
Ambition, exactly. Greatness at any cost. Black definitely seems like a great tool going in the meta forward too. So if you're looking to beat red in your meta at your stores, look towards black. There's a lot of stuff. We also have cards such as 3 mana, deal 3, gain 3. I cannot remember the life. Can't remember the.
Oh yeah. It's like the weird lightning helix.
Yes,
Isn't it like
Aether Revolt.
Essence Extraction
Essence
or
Extraction.
something?
Yeah, that's also a pretty good tool against aggro. If you're desperate, Bond 2's Last Reclamation is actually, frankly, a pretty good Wrath. I think at 3 mana, it's great. We also have
You're eating your words on that, huh?
I
I remember someone not having faith in that
I'm
card.
testing the waters with that card. I'm still not 100% proven, but I think that card has
I'm
merit.
just messing with you. No,
I
that
know.
that card is a dangerous card, especially against aggro, because while you can play it turn 3 and clear the board and put a giant road bump, that unfortunately that road bump it rolls both ways, and your opponent will get the first say on what happens on the board. So it's a tough card, especially with the number of hasty threats that this mono red deck has. You can board wipe and suddenly you're just staring at the same problem you had last turn.
True. Exactly. That is an issue, but hopefully. But the thing is, though, the question is, do you choose to go for the cheaper board wives while risking your opponent just playing more gas and beating you anyways, or do you play the more expensive board wives such as our Devastation, which is more complete board wipe, will hit more things, but also comes down later, and you risk just
dying before you get the chance. Yeah.
Exactly.
One thing I liked a lot about Yusuke Sasabe's deck, a mono black zombie deck, was that he ran a 1 of Sky Sovereign console flagship in the sideboard. And every time that card came down, like, yes, I understand it's a powerful card, but every time that card came down, I was impressed. Like 5 mana, yeah, but that card he piloted it extremely well.
Flagship has always been one of those cards where like I always forget exists, and it just shows up in sideboards all the time. It's like
it's like a baby Atarka.
How do I kill this?
Yeah.
It's so big. It's so fat. It's a fat ship. It kills all my things. Great card. That's definitely a good sideboard card for sure. I mean, right now I've been saying a lot of tools that have been mostly in black and red itself, because red also has a couple 3 mana rats. We have Sweltering Suns, and if you're going more colors, although I think it's less likely, we have from Battle for Zendikar that 3 mana wrath as well.
Oh yeah. Radiant Flames.
Radiant
Is that
Flames,
the name?
yes.
Yeah.
Now the question is, what do the other colors have to combat against this? Green, blue. Am I missing a color?
White. Yeah, white. Yeah.
Jesus. Holy crap.
There was a time where white was dominant, and now we barely even see Gideon.
White does have some nice tools with Blessed Alliance. Blessed Alliance is a good card.
Yeah, Blessed Alliance is great.
Oh, that which reminds me of not Tragic Arrogance. Why did I think of that card? Cruel, the modern card. It's not modern, but it sees a lot of play in modern. 2 mana, you can either do a duress or -2/-2 or a drain 2.
Oh yeah, it's collective brutality
Collective
and
brutality.
yeah, collective
Yes.
brutality in black.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that
once
card's
again, it's
amazing.
another black card, but we might be seeing more of it in play if we see reds continue to be dominant in the meta, because that is a perfect answer to the red deck.
Oh yeah, I mean you can get rid of their Earthshaker Kinras while also taking out a burn spell, stripping a burn spell from their hand, and you can always just drain them for 2.
Mm-hmm.
Against a deck like Ramunap Red, card advantage is always important, but it's less like you can feel more comfortable discarding things because they they can get rid of their hands fast as well, which they need to because you have to get Hazaret online.
Yes,
If you're going to drop a Hazaret.
of course.
So yeah, I think Collective Brutality is an amazing card against them. Unfortunately, unlike Modern, we don't have as many cards that we're willing to discard happily.
But we do have cards like Scrappy Scrounger and other Delirium as well.
Scrap Heap Scrounger and oh man, what was that one zombie? He was a limited all-star. Summons a spirit if you exile him from your graveyard.
I'm not sure if that'll see play, but I
don't
like the
think
idea.
so,
I like the idea.
But I like things like that.
Yeah, no, that's a great card. Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do in Modern is Collective Brutality pitching a Lingering Soul. That warms my heart. That makes me feel good.
Gross.
Especially against an Infect player, which we don't see as much anymore, but that always made me happy against an Infect player.
Now, green has, I think, the fewer ways to deal with the Ramunap red deck. Mainly, I mean, I like Pulse of Marasa as an option because it can gain you 6 life. It's either 6
Also
or 7
bring back
life,
a creature you
and
want to
brings
use as
back a
chop
creature.
block, yeah.
Unfortunately, the biggest problem with green is one of the best tools against the red deck would be blocking with their larger creatures because they have access to larger creatures. Obviously, the deck is so good. The red deck wins deck is so good at not giving a crap about your blockers. Between On-Crop Crasher and Earthshaker Kenra, oftentimes you just won't have an option to block at all. And Karizev, which is seeing play amazingly, itself has Menace, and it's Ragavan which comes in. You can block, but it's just going to come back every turn anyways.
That's sneaky monkey.
That sneaky monkey. So
what an interesting... I did not expect the pirate, Karizev, to see play like that. It's crazy, but yeah, she's a 3 of right now.
Honestly, I think she was my least favorite of the cycle, of the legendary cycle.
I mean, part of me wishes the monkey wasn't legendary. I think there'd be some cooler things you could do if it wasn't. But I understand. Most of the time when she attacks, she's only really swinging for 1. But you have to deal with that monkey some way, so that takes up a blocker. You got to deal with the monkey.
And finally, with blue, blue is just it's blue. You really can't do much. It's mostly going to be a support card.
You counter stuff. You draw cards. You play a Torrential Gearhulk. Same thing.
Unfortunately, counter spell is frankly weaker against decks that try to go fast. Essence Scatter is decent, but if you Essence Scatter and Earthshaker Kenra, it's gonna come back.
Hey, at least when you when you disallow like a Ramunap land trigger, it's almost like
Stone Rain?
Almost like a Stone Rain. Yeah, I was gonna say Sinkhole, but yeah, it was almost like a Stone Rain.
It essentially is a Stone Rain. To be fair, your 3-mana destroy a land. Actually, it's even better than a Stone Rain because it's instant speed and your opponent taps 4 mana for it.
Yeah, that's true too.
Powerful.
Yeah.
So look, the meta looks good looking forward, because red deck is dominant, but it's not looking impervious. And as we see the meta move forward, it's gonna go through healthy transition, which I'm very much looking forward to. It's gonna be nice. It's not gonna be the same deck over and over again.
We almost went 2 years without a really powerful mono red deck, and people were starting to forget what red deck wins even means. We're seeing it again.
It's good to see it back. It really is good to see it back.
And you got to consider the newer players who want to take an interest in competitive, mono red. I'm not saying it's a brain dead deck to play. It's not. There are a lot of triggers, to understand, like with Hazaret, and there's a lot of intricacies in the deck, especially in the mirror match. But it is still like a deck with a fairly low skill ceiling to get in. I'm not going to discredit the deck, but it does have an easy understanding. You get them dead. That's your primary goal. Get your opponent dead. And I do think that's a good way to get newer players more interested in the competitive side. So I'm happy with mono red decks.
I also tend to lean on the cheaper side.
At least they don't have Searing Blood in this meta. Forget that card.
I mean, it also helps that these decks also tend to lean on the cheaper side monetary wise. I mean, unfortunately, due to the
Ooh,
Pro Tour,
but Hazaret and
yes,
Chandra.
yeah, unfortunately, due to the Pro Tour, mythics such as Hazaret and Chandra have gone up, as well as cards like Urshik or Kenra have gone up in price. But honestly, compared to a lot of other decks in the format, this deck won't really set you back quite as much, and you can easily make budgetary
Oh yeah.
cuts as well.
I mean, the most important card, the namesake card of the deck, Ramanop Ruins. That's what, an uncommon?
Uncommon land.
Yeah, that's an uncommon land
And
in the
get your
newest
playset
set.
of Sunscorched Deserts too. Boom! 20 turn
Boom.
clock if you can play 20 Sunscorched Deserts. Maybe.
You can only play 4 on the deck. Spoiler.
Shh, don't tell me that. Don't say that. Alright. Well, that's the end of our first main phase, and then we'll move on to our combat step, where we'll be tackling the question, what is the Pro Tour meant to be?
Ooh.
Is the Pro Tour really the professional tour, or is it the promotional tour? Now, this has been, honestly, something that Wizards has been dealing with for a while now. And if we'll be frank, most players understand, the Pro Tour is not really meant to be a... Obviously, this is meant to bring together the best of the best players and show off the best of Magic. But in the end, it is a marketing tool for Wizards and Hasbro in general. They use the Pro Tour to market the newest cards, because oftentimes the Pro Tour is standard, to market the newest cards, show off Magic, and sell, sell, sell. Now,
Yeah.
now, is this the right direction to take the Pro Tour, though? Is this really right? Obviously, business in the business sense, this makes perfect sense. You want to use it as a marketing tool. But
Honestly,
yes,
it comes down to a chicken or the egg argument. You want to have a competitive game to bring players to it who have an interest in it, but you also want to have a commercially successful game where you can have a prize pool that brings the pro players to it. It is kind of this looping argument with a lot of circular logic in it. And so basically the question is an ideological one, like you said, should Wizards first and foremost be encouraging, professional play, or, should they be recognizing this as an avenue to promote and sell their game? And I honestly think that either way you argue is going to be a fair argument. I think both are necessary. And, the Pro Tour, like a lot of decisions were made, to, promote newer cards. It's part of the reason why, older formats don't see as much Pro Tour circuits anymore.
of course.
And
Now, I just worry though that Wizards may be taking a wrong step towards this, because honestly, this came to a head when Wizards announced a few months ago that they would be giving a special Pro Tour invite to a very popular Hearthstone streamer, Maz. Who, I mean, not anything against the guy. He actually does seem like a pretty avid Magic player, and is frankly pretty good. He has streamed Magic in the past and is shown to be very good, primarily playing Draft. But is it right to just hand out an invite to the top level of professional play in Magic to just end?
I don't particularly agree with that because, there are players who have, been grinding, those points and are just shy of being able to get on the Pro Tour or been grinding, those PTQs and all that. And they want a spotlight, but, they're not quite there. And then you got, someone like, Maz is good. But the question is, where do we go from here? It's a little bit of a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is.
Are you just going to take off, any Joe streamer who's really popular and just put him in here because name recognition? It's like, no, that's definitely not the direction you should go. There are a lot of dedicated players in Magic, the community, and I understand what Wizards is trying to do. They're trying to reach out to other markets, bring, people of other interests in. But I'm not sure if you necessarily want to use your Pro Tour for that. I think, the Pro Tour mostly is to help reestablish, players that already have a budding interest, giving them an outlet where they can see, the top level of play, reinforcing that interest is first and foremost. I don't think it's really a good idea to try to draw Hearthstone, players over, or other players from other formats who haven't played Magic yet, and then showing them the Pro Tour that way. I mean, I think that's something more your marketing department should be trying to do, not your competitive play format. I don't know. I think business is business, so I don't completely.
I do agree.
I don't completely hate on Wizards for this, but it does feel wrong that you have a bunch of players out there trying to get to the Pro Tour, and just giving away Pro Tour seats for this does not feel right.
Yeah, that's why I have such a hard time about this. Like, cause business is business, and this should bring a lot of eyeballs, more eyeballs to Magic. Because Moss is a very popular streamer. It just doesn't feel right to just hand out an invite when so many people work so hard for it. Now, this, what I might say next might be kind of controversial, but this logic also applies to the Hall of Famers as well. Obviously, those who are in the Hall of Fame have proven their worth time and time again that they are the best at this game. But does being the best and being voted into the Hall of Fame also give them the right to be invited to every single Pro Tour without showing their merits as a player?
Well, I mean,
yes.
in my opinion, like, yeah, there's going to be Hall of Famers who, 10 years ago, Magic was a very different game. 5 years from now, Magic will probably be a very different game.
It's always evolving.
And it's changing, and that's a fair question. But I think with Hall of Famers, those are players that the Magic community and Wizards have like targeted as these are iconic, to the development of the game. And I think giving them, some additional recognition of that is fine. Like, allowing them to say, hey, maybe I want to come back to the game. John Finkel, is one of those players that's always a blast to watch.
I love Finkel.
Amazing Hall of Famer. And, I think it's fair for, players like John Finkel to come on the Pro Tour when they want, when they want to.
I love these players as much as the next
argument.
Yes, I love these players as much as the next person. They do great Magic, and it's a blast to watch them play. I just feel like they might be more deserving and more fair to the rest of the circuit if perhaps these invites were handed out more on a merit base. Well, obviously they've proven their merit as a Magic player.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a little bit of a false equivalency argument, just because someone like Amaz who might have played some Magic on stream. He's primarily a Hearthstone player, and like I enjoy his content, and he's a good person and all that. But he's not like, to say he's like someone like to the community like John Finkel or like a Louis Scott Vargas. That's not quite the same. I mean, he's not as entrenched in the Magic community, so I don't think it's exactly fair. Like, it's not exactly the same argument, but like, farther down the road, we get more and more Hall of Famers each year. How many Hall of Famers come into a Pro Tour is too many.
Yeah.
Like that, I can see that as an argument as well,
It's tough. It's a tough question to tackle, I think. I don't know the right answer. And frankly, I don't know if there is a right answer.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to tackle.
And it's not like you can say, oh, they get set so many years after they get inducted to the Hall of Fame.
That's tricky too.
Are inducted into the Hall of Fame, kind of past, when they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it might have been a few years or so. Although I believe most Hall of Famers are current players, right? Like,
actually,
when they're inducted.
No, this has been a pretty recent trend. Recently, it has been true. Recently, Hall of Famers have been current players, but there have been kind of a pushback against that from the community, that giving current successful players a seat at the Hall of Fame is an incorrect move, and rather we should be recognizing more older, more past players. It's a debate. There's no right or wrong side to it, honestly. That's the end of combat. We'll be going on to the post-combat main phase now, our second main phase. Very recently, a Japanese advertisement for Commander 17 was leaked.
Ooh.
And with it, no cards, unfortunately, but an official reveal, an official announcement of what the 4 tribes of Commander 17 are going to be. So, obviously, we had the previous leaks of 5 color dragons and Selesnya cats. Joining those tribes will be...
Cats,
the musical. Joining those tribes will be Mardu vampires and Grixis wizards.
That's strange.
That is strange. I did not expect wizards at all.
Yeah, since it's like a job type instead of a creature, like
Well, there was
specifically, like a
speculating
race.
that it would even be clerics, which is also a
I would have
class
liked
as
to see
well.
clerics. Clerics need more love.
Well, after all, they're not called clerics of the coast, you know. But
That's a good point. That they would be a bunch of cocks instead of walks.
Yes, it would be. All right. So the four tribes are five colored dragons, celestial cats, so green white cats, black white red vampires, and blue black red wizards. I always
Yep.
It's tough to remember what the color. It's so much easier to say the name of it, but just in case you don't know the official names of the color combination, those are the colors of it. But this also kind of makes more sense for color balance reasons. It's obviously it's not perfectly balanced because it's tough to balance with just four decks, and that's the entire reason why they went with four decks because they realized color balance is going to be too hard when they're going for a tribal focus. But it does help with a color in the color balance sense because if we went clerics, then it was probably white black, and then there'd be like white in dragons, cats, and so there'd be white in every deck, basically. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of tricky for color balance, but it's cool to see. I'm glad that they're tackling something outside of just colors strictly. I mean, so far each
Yeah,
commander
it's tribes.
so far
And
each
and
commander
it's
set has been a color combination focus, but now we're focusing on more tribes and also from what we've seen of the five color dragons deck is true for the other decks. We're going to be seeing a lot of old characters in the story that have never been actually given cards themselves be brought to life within these decks, which is also very cool. Now, I would take this time to speculate as to what characters may pop up in these decks. Unfortunately, I am not quite as familiar with the older Magic lore as a fairly newer player myself. So, unfortunately, I can't take this time. But perhaps, editor's note, flash some older characters on the screen. Here. Boom. There we go. Now it look informative.
ooh, look at that! Oh, it's Urza and Soren's daddy.
Yeah, Edgar Markov, which actually has been confirmed to be the face of the Mardu Vampire deck. We could see somebody like that'd be crazy if they brought Urza in, but we could see somebody like they could try.
Hey, we're going back to
We
Dominaria.
are going back to Dominaria. We could try who's that Innistrad wizard that does scab things. He was in the last commander set, but people
Oh
were
yeah,
disappointed.
the one everyone was disappointed by.
They could try to do him again.
Yeah, that seems a little bit soon though.
It does seem soon,
Man.
which is why I'm doubting it. But he was a bad card, dude. That card was boring.
Yeah. Oh man, it's man.
Yeah,
He
it's
was
on the
such
tip
a
of my
great
tongue.
character. Like I know Gisa and Geralt reference him.
Right. Right, yeah. It's no, wait, no. I think it starts with an L. This is so dumb.
Ludwig.
Ludwig, there we go.
Yeah, Ludwig.
Oh my god, that took forever to find out. Yeah, there we go. Ludwig, the great mad scientist. It would be cool to see Wizards try to tackle that again. But as we know how the development cycle works, it probably wasn't even in the books to begin with.
Yeah, I doubt we'll see a Ludwig this soon. But I mean, yeah, the vampire deck does take us back to Innistrad, but he does come across as identity of creature, so I'm not sure he'll be in the Mardu vampire deck. I highly doubt it.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, it would be in the Wizards firmly. I would hope. I would assume.
Was it his creature type wizard? No, yeah.
It was.
They
Wizard?
don't have scientists as a type.
I'm actually now I'm doubting if it even was Wizards. I don't even know what it was now. I think it was Wizards. I'm pretty sure it's Wizards. Editor, flash it in. I'm the editor. What am I yelling at myself for? Well, anyways, that's gonna be Commander. We don't know too much about it. All we know is what's been leaked and what's been revealed officially by Wizards. Official spoilers start next Monday, so by this time next week, we'll be knowing hopefully what the face commanders are and more cards. So stay tuned for that. Moving on, though, we have even more cards that were announced. This is an official announcement for Wizards. Hascon is coming up this fall, and with it, special promotional cards. Do you have them in front of you, Duck?
Yes. All right. So on the Hascon MTG promos, we have 3 cards. The first is Sword of Dungeons and Dragons. If you're familiar with the Sword cycle, it's like the rest. It's a 3-mana artifact that gives a quick creature +2/+2 and has protection. But instead of colors, you get protection from rogues and clerics. Very flavorful with Wizards'
That's
other
great.
IP, Dungeons and Dragons. And whenever a quick creature deals combat damage to a player, you create a 4/4 dragon creature token with flying, and you roll a d20. If you roll a 20, repeat it. You get another dragon. So that's a lot of
And
hacks
it has
there.
a protection. The dragon token itself has protection from gold, correct?
I'm not looking at the token right now, but I got it up over
Oh, I
here.
think the card.
No, it's just flying. It has a lot
Oh,
of
I
gold
thought I
on it.
thought something gave protection from gold. Okay, never mind then. I thought
I
the
don't think
dragon itself
so.
had protection from gold. Oh, regardless, the card is a flavor home run.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm kind of disappointed that it didn't have an effect like if you roll like a 1 or some other
Oh yeah,
disastrously low
yeah.
number, some
Critical
bad effect
fail.
happens. That kind of sucks. But if you get your hacks, D20, you get a cool effect. And then the next card is Grimlock Dinobot Leader. It is Naya, and this ties into the Transformer, another subsidiary of Hasbro. It's a 4 CMC card, 1 generic, red, green, white, for a legendary artifact creature Autobot. I don't know when we've had that subtype. We'd have to look back. Autobot Tribal Win. And so dinosaurs, vehicles, and Transformers, asterisk, creatures you control get +2/+0. And then you can pay for 2 mana to convert a Transformer toy you own to its other mode, and Grimlock Dinobot Leader becomes Grimlock Ferocious King. Now, Grimlock Dinobot Leader is a 4/4, but he can transform into an 8/8 that has Trample, and then you can pay 2 to convert a Transformer toy you own into its other mode, and then Grimlock also transforms back. So that's interesting. It's a big beater. These are all silver cards, by the way, so no playing them anywhere, but they're fun.
Yes.
The last card is Nerf War, and it is a 5 mana sorcery at Mythic. Fire a Nerf blaster until empty at target library from at least 2 meters away. Break out your tape measures that are in metric because you're going to need it for this card. For each card knocked off that library, put it into its owner's graveyard, and Nerf War deals 1/2 damage to that player.
If this is the quality of silver border cards we're going to be getting in Unstable, I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be fun.
I love these. Great.
I think Nerf War is a bit unbalanced because there are Nerf blasters that have much bigger clips than other Nerf guns.
Listen, I'm not the
one.
They
didn't standardize this at all.
Listen. If you can't bring the heat, okay, stay out of the kitchen. If you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen.
Say hello to my little friend.
These cards are hilarious. I love them. Now, okay, and as you mentioned, these are silver borders, so they are not tournament legal, obviously. But if you want to pick them up, they will be available at Hascon, I believe, for $30, maybe.
Man, for 3 cards, but you do get a shiny case thingy.
Also, 2 tokens with the 2 cards.
Yeah, you do get 2 tokens.
And the foil is gorgeous.
Wait, what's the second token? You get the dragon and the what?
Oh, no, never mind. Grimlock is just the back. Never mind.
Yeah, he flips.
It's like getting 2 cards for 1. Value.
Yeah, you'll blind yourself on both hands.
But the foiling on the silver border is absolutely gorgeous. These are
Wait a second.
What?
What if you don't have a sleeve? How do you play Grimlock? There's no checklist card.
Oh my god! Forget it. Don't buy the Hascon promos. They're worthless. The stock market is crashing. Sell your house. It's all over. We're living on the rocks now. Anarchy.
Sell your kidneys.
Sell your kidneys.
Playing Legacy now.
These are cool. I'm looking forward to Hascon. I think I will be visiting as I do live pretty close by. Maybe I'll snag some of these cards, but unsure. It would be cool if they handed them out for free, but for $30, we'll have to see. I'm gonna have to see how truly shiny and they are in person.
Just hide them for like 100 years, and it'll be worth something.
It'll be my nest egg, my $30 nest egg.
Yeah, it's better than a certificate of deposit, people. It's more reliable. Trust me, I'm a financial genius.
Of course.
No, don't do that.
All right, well, that's going to be the end of our Magic discussion. Thanks for tuning in to the 3rd installment of the Upkeep. Once again, I'm your host, Young-jin.
And I'm Tryzyn, I think.
And maybe, who knows, might be different next time. And join us next time when we talk more about Magic. Who knows when that'll be? Maybe not a month from now. So, also, stick around for the end step if you're interested. You don't have to stay, but please do. I'm going to be doing a quick talk about Dunkirk, which is a phenomenal movie. If you're interested, stick around. But that's going to be it for our magic. Thanks for listening.
I didn't
and
see
you
it.
next time.
I'm gone. Later.
Peace. All right, so Dunkirk. I need to talk about this movie, Dunkirk. If you are a fan of war movies, this movie was phenomenal. This might possibly be the best war film I've ever seen. The probably the best thing about this movie was that the sound design was ridiculous. Like each gunshot and each explosion happened like it was right next to your ear. Absolutely phenomenal. It was like you're right in the war itself. And the way the story was told, also very unique. Now, this is a Christopher Nolan film, and Christopher Nolan likes to mess around with time. You saw that with Inception and Interstellar and Memento. He likes to mess around with time and switching the story. He does the same thing in this one. We have 3 different storylines. We have the beach, the air, and the sea. And each one happens during a different span of time. Air happens in an hour, sea happens in a day, and the beach story happens in a week. But as we move back and forth between the stories, we have these very cool moments where something that happened in one timeline occurs again in the other, and we can see a different point of view from this. There's a moment when the fighter pilots are in the air, one goes down to the ocean, but it's shown that the one that went to the ocean is all right. He waved at the one in the air, and so it seemed like he was all right. But then we cut to him in a different timeline, and we see him struggling to get out because he's actually stuck in the cockpit won't open, and the water level is rising. Phenomenally well-made story. That the way the 3 different storylines start to interweave with one another and eventually meet at the end, very satisfying. The direction was spotless. The framing and everything was very well done. And the acting was great too. Not a lot of dialogue. Frankly, in fact, there's mainly maybe a dozen lines of dialogue in the entire film, but that only added to the tension of it. This movie is wrought with tension, wrought with a sense of dire emergency. Like your life was at risk with these soldiers on the beaches. And these soldiers on the beaches, there another thing that I really like about the film, there wasn't really any heroics with the film. These were just soldiers fighting to survive. No brash heroes. The closest thing we have to a hero is the main fighter pilot played by Tom Hardy. I can't believe his name blanked me. Tom Hardy is the closest thing we have to a hero. Tom Hardy patrolling the skies, protecting the men at the beach from the Luftwaffe planes, which by the way were terrifying when they were screaming through the air. But the main story boiled down to these soldiers who just wanted to go home and the fight for their survival, which was a fantastic element of the film. Overall, I highly enjoyed the film, and I highly recommend watching this in theaters. 70mm IMAX if you can. And that's all I have to say. That's it. Just watch the movie.